Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this. Today, we are breaking down the clinical, behavioral science behind James Clear's massive hit, Atomic Habits. But we're going to do it in a completely unique way. We are looking at these psychological principles through a dramatic, cinematic story set right in the heart of Mumbai's Dharavi slum. We're going to follow a Bollywood-style hero's journey to see exactly how these scientific habits actually look when they're tested in the gritty, unforgiving real world. If you want to understand how tiny changes create massive transformations, honestly, there is no better way to learn it than through a really compelling story. So let's get into it.
Imagine the reality of our hero, Raju Sharma. He's a 24-year-old chai stall helper making a meager 3,000 rupees a month. His life is just this endless loop of waking up at 5 a.m., making tea, and watching everybody else succeed. He is completely trapped in a cycle of survival. But late one night, a mysterious old man in a white kurta visits the stall, looks Raju dead in the eye, and drops an absolute bomb of a question. He asks him, "Are you getting better every day, or just repeating the same day?" Now, what's really fascinating here is that this single question completely shatters Raju's illusion. It forces him to confront this terrifying reality that time is passing, sure, but he is standing completely still.
Section 1. The 1% Seed. Planting the idea that changes everything. Now, this mysterious mentor introduces a concept that, frankly, sounds way too simple to actually work in the chaos of real life. I mean, when you're at the very bottom, looking up at this massive mountain of success, the idea of completely overhauling your life overnight is paralyzing. It's practically impossible. But the mentor completely reframes the challenge for our hero. He tells Raju that getting 1% better isn't a massive change. It's just a small seed. It'll become a tree, you just have to water it daily. So the crucial takeaway is that behavior change isn't about some dramatic overnight makeover. It's about agriculture. It's about planting a tiny manageable habit and committing to nurturing it relentlessly, day after day, without stressing over the immediate harvest.
Completely inspired by this encounter, Raju actually takes immediate action. But notice, he doesn't do anything crazy or drastic. He just goes out and buys a cheap 10-rupee notebook. He writes his very first entry, making a promise that from today, he will get 1% better. Small steps, but every single day. And this brilliantly illustrates the real power of starting small. That inexpensive little notebook is effectively his very first contract with his future self. He's moved from this vague dream of being someone to a concrete, written commitment of daily, tiny actions.
Section 2. The Atomic Habit Machine. Applying the Science of Behavior Change.
Wanting to change is great, but relying on pure willpower almost always ends in failure. So Raju applies the first core law of behavior change: make it obvious. By simply redesigning his physical environment, he makes his cues totally visible and practically impossible to ignore. He puts his notebook right beside his bed, so it is literally the first thing he sees. He hangs a Read and Grow poster at the tea stall, so his workspace triggers his goal. And he sets an alarm that specifically orders him to wake up and read. He doesn't rely on waking up and just hoping he feels motivated. He makes his new study habit so blindingly obvious that ignoring it would actually take more effort than just doing it.
But then, of course, comes the social friction. When his friend Papu openly mocks him for trying to be more than just a simple chaiwala, Raju faces a real crisis. Here, he applies the second law of behavior change: identity shift. He moves away from an outcome-based thought, like, "I want to study," and steps fully into an identity-based reality. I am a reader. He completely rejects the chaiwala label. He tells himself he's a seeker of knowledge. This is monumental because true behavior change is identity change. Once you fundamentally believe you are a reader, reading isn't a chore anymore. It's just simply what you do.
And this identity shift anchors a brilliant behavioral chain reaction known as habit stacking. Raju seamlessly ties his new, desired behaviors directly to his existing, deeply ingrained daily routines. After making chai, which he has to do anyway, boom, he studies for 15 minutes. After taking a bath, he immediately listens to a podcast. Habit stacking works incredibly well because you're using the pure momentum of an old habit to trigger a new one. The habits literally hold hands, creating this frictionless system that just pulls him through his day.
Section 3. Surviving the middle struggle when the cinematic montage hits a wall.
You know how in movies there's always that upbeat montage where the hero studies super hard for like 2 minutes of screen time and suddenly succeeds? Well, real life has no skip button. After 3 whole months of a grueling, exhausting routine, Raju takes a preliminary banking exam to test his progress, and he scores a devastating 32%. It is his darkest moment. His family essentially tells him, "We told you so, just stick to making tea." It's totally crushing. A heartbroken Raju sits in his room and almost tears up his little 10-rupee notebook in absolute despair. This is the exact moment where 99% of people quit their habit journeys. They put in the work, they don't see the immediate result, and they just walk away.
But he stops tearing the pages. Why? Because he remembers a really vital concept, the plateau of latent potential. This is that brutal phase where it feels like absolutely nothing is happening. It's the valley of disappointment. But Raju realizes his growth is exactly like a bamboo tree. For 5 whole years, a bamboo tree grows entirely underground, building this massive invisible root system. You see literally nothing on the surface. Then suddenly, it shoots up 90 feet in a single season. Raju realizes his work isn't being wasted, it's simply being stored. His growth is underground, invisible for now, but absolutely necessary.
Now, understanding the plateau is one thing, but feeling it is a whole different beast. The biggest hurdle in any transformation is pushing through those dark days when you can't even drag yourself out of bed. Which begs a crucial question for our hero, and honestly, for all of us. What exactly do you do when your motivation completely dies? When your willpower is sitting at absolute zero?
Raju actually survives this emotional slump using the incredible power of the 2-minute rule. He stops focusing on the huge, intimidating goal of studying for hours. On his absolute worst days, he promises himself he will only study for 120 seconds. That is it, just 2 minutes. And what happens? Well, he trusts the physics of human behavior. A body at rest stays at rest, sure, but a body in motion stays in motion. Once he actually sits down and opens the book for 2 minutes, the friction just disappears, and he almost always ends up studying for 30 minutes or an hour.
To make those absolute hardest days even easier, he brilliantly utilizes another technique called temptation bundling. He basically pairs a habit he desperately wants to do with a habit he needs to do. He loves watching cricket, right? So he makes a strict rule. He can only watch the match if he's practicing his English vocabulary at the exact same time. He bundles his Instagram scrolling with educational podcasts. By pairing a craving with a chore, he effectively makes the hard habits wildly attractive.
Section 4. The Bollywood Triumph, the Breakthrough, and the Twist.
Fast forward 6 relentless months. After months of relying on the 2-minute rule, temptation bundling, and fighting tooth and nail through the plateau of latent potential, the compound interest of Raju's tiny daily systems finally breaks the surface. The bamboo tree shoots out of the ground. Clutching his worn, battered 10-rupee notebook with tears in his eyes, Raju clears the incredibly difficult banking preliminary exam. And he doesn't just clear it, he achieves rank 47, from a struggling chaiwala failing at 32% to one of the top rankers in the country. It wasn't magic, it wasn't some sudden burst of genius, it was the inevitable mathematical result of his daily unbreakable 1% system.
Overjoyed, Raju rushes back to the tea stall to thank the mysterious mentor who started it all. But the old man is completely nowhere to be found. Instead, Raju flips to the back of his notebook and discovers a brand new entry in a handwriting that isn't his. It says, 1% daily, that's it, every day, without stopping, your future self. Raju realizes the ultimate twist here. The old man was really just a metaphor. He was the guiding voice of Raju's own potential, his own future self, reaching back in time to pull him forward. The hero wasn't someone else. The hero was inside him all along.
Section 5. Your 1% Mission. Taking the TEDx Stage. Years later, our hero is no longer at the chai stall. He's standing under the bright lights of a TEDx stage as a highly successful, respected bank officer. And he isn't up there just giving vague inspirational advice. No, he reveals the indisputable mathematical proof of his success. If you get just 1% better every single day for 1 year, that formula means you end up nearly 38 times better by the end of the year. It's crazy. Conversely, if you get 1% worse daily, you decline to nearly 0. The math is cold, hard, and undeniably powerful. Success isn't a lottery ticket, guys. It is simply compound interest applied to human behavior.
On that TEDx stage, Raju perfectly translates the clinical 4 laws of behavior change from James Clear's book into his own lived street-smart philosophy. Make it obvious simply becomes change your space. Make it attractive becomes pair the bad with the good. Make it easy becomes do a 2-minute act, and make it satisfying becomes celebrate small daily. He proves to everyone watching that these aren't just academic theories meant for some sterile classroom. They are highly practical, incredibly powerful survival tools for anyone trying to change their life in the real world.
And that brings us to the absolute most important question, the one we want to leave you with today. The hero of your story isn't coming to save you from the outside. So ask yourself, Are you going to keep repeating the exact same day over and over again? Or will you start your 1% mission today? What tiny 2-minute habit will you start right now, today, to rescue your own future? Think about it. Find your 1% and start building your own remarkable story. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.